So today we'll be replacing the carrier bearings on this 1996 Honda 300EX. Y'all can tell. Yeah, they're way past it. So already got the chain off. Take and jack it up. Put a jack stand up underneath it. Be safe about it. I'm about to take the tires off of it. I'll be right back. Alright, once it's jacked up, jack stands up underneath it, you're being safe. Get an impact. Bust these lug nuts off. Already took a breaker bar and did it. Not going to say what size it is because all lug nuts are different. Got the stud spinning in the back for some reason. Probably have to replace that. Yeah, I think she's a little worn out. Alright, one off. Do the other one. Make sure you keep up with all your lug nuts unless you end up planning on losing them and replacing them. Alright, now we're going to get us a pair of pliers and take these cotter pins out. And then it should be a 27 millimeter nut for the axle, for the hub. So, alright, after you take the cotter pin out, toss it in the garbage, put a new one in. Take and loosen up the axle nut for the hub. Like I said, I believe it's 27 millimeter. However, I have, let's see here. It's a 1 and 1/16 inch wrench that I had laying around. Worked fine. Put it on, took a hammer, beat it a little bit. This is a must for loosening these. Take it on that side, lower it down a little bit, lower your jack stand, that way it sits perfect when you're prying on it. Because it's going to lean side to side. You don't want it falling off on you. They don't weigh that much, but still it don't feel good. Anyways, take your long pry bar, shove through it, cockeye like this, because you're going to be prying this way and it's going to keep that one side from moving, the whole axle. Best way to get it off. And then these, if they're greased good and ain't been sitting a long time, they ought to just slide right off. Put your nut back on because you are going to end up beating on it. Slide it through. Now, next thing is the 2 axle nuts. You need to remove your brake caliper, your brake disc. However, the brake disc, even after you take the caliper off, it will not clear this axle nut. Don't know why. You got to loosen it up. Don't know. Honda made them the way they made them. So let's get on with it. Alright, before we start, you're going to have to end up loosening this back nut right here enough that you can take and turn it. It is backwards threaded. And the reason why you're going to have to turn it in kind of like you're tightening it is because you have a snap ring right here. You're going to have to get that spring-loaded snap ring off. It's not that hard. Take the 2 flat heads, walk around, and right off. Keep up with it. Then you can take it and start unscrewing. And both of these, like I said, are backwards threaded. And they are a pain in the butt. Especially if you've never took them loose. and they've just been on since day one, since the factory. Oh, they're awful. Now, what I would suggest, because it is rusty and a crusty, load her down a little bit. Spray on juice there. Make sure this comes right off. There you go. And it is a little aggravating to remember they are backwards threaded. So it ain't no righty tighty and lefty loosey. It's lefty tighty and righty loosey. It don't make a lot of sense. Alright. Now back on to the main job. Now we're going to take this caliper off. Not exactly sure what bolt size it is. I'll tell y'all in just one moment. And then we're going to take the rotor off. And then after the rotor, this hub, we're going to have to take us a punch. Hope we ain't got to heat it up. But we might have to heat it up with a torch. Anyways, we'll take a punch and punch this rotor hub off. That way we can get the rest of it out. Catch y'all in a minute. Alright, in order to take the rear caliper off, you'll end up needing a 1/4 inch Allen head. Or you can also take in, I believe it is a 6mm Allen. So, but anyways, there's one right here and one up here behind this main line. And then she'll take and come off. She's a little tricky, especially on the inner one, due to the fact that these Allens like to strip out. So be careful, take your time. Then after you got that, get you a 14mm and a 9/16 will also work. Take these 3 bolts off for the brake rotor. Keep up with them. Right off. Don't look too bad other than it's a little rusty. It's been sitting for 2 years, so can't really complain with it sitting outside in the weather for 2 years, but hey, it still fires up and runs great. So, now like I said, you might have to take your punch and beat this right here off the bracket that holds on the rotor. Or you might just be able to do it just like I just did. Like I said, you may or may not have to beat on it, but the bearings are completely shot in this, so that's probably the reason why I don't have to beat on it. Anyways, now there is a big snap ring on the back for the bracket that holds the caliper on, and now it is absolutely ridiculous to get. I've tried it with a snap ring tool, still cannot get it because my snap ring tool will not open it up enough. So bear with me. Probably gonna smack it around with a hammer to circle it back around, that way I can have some more room to work on it. Maybe y'all can see it a little bit better also. So, yeah. Let me get me another big flathead. Maybe with 2 of them we can try it and get it. Yeah, this snap ring is, I mean, absolutely a pain. Even with a set of snap ring pliers. Honestly, it's a little bit easier with a flat end. It just takes some time and some patience. We'll get it. Just like that. Now, bracket for the rear caliper come right off. Lay it to the side. And then if your bearings are completely gone, then you should be able to just let's see. Well, I was hoping I was going to clear my guard, but I'm not going to clear my chain guard, so I'm either going to have to take the sprocket off, which I don't know, I really don't want to. It's probably going to be easier just to unbolt this real quick with the impact. So, and I believe, let's see, I believe it is a 12. Well, half inch fits it. I don't know if y'all can see that or not. Yeah, over there you go. Out she comes. I go ahead and take this axle nut off. Since we're done beating on it with a hammer. Just slide it all the way through. Axle out. And yeah, it's definitely seen its better days. Spray some WD-40 on it. Got all kinds of gunk on it. Might have to take my big pair of channel locks and turn it. Alright, now that we got the axle out, let's get the carrier out. Now, you've got 3 bolts, that's 12 millimeter. One right here, one right here. And then, you have one more right up underneath. And this is an adjuster bolt. Okay, do not lose it. What that does is when you put the new carrier in with the bearings, or if you can just replace your bearings, I'm going to go ahead and replace the whole carrier with the bearings already installed. So anyways, it pivots back and forth. When I take it out, I'll show y'all. And that adjuster tightens up, that way it won't move any. But anyways, see how hard it is to get out. 2013 was when it had them replaced. and I think they're pretty much on. Wow. Yeah, even if I wanted to put bearings in this carrier, it is bad. Bad. I don't know if y'all can see this or not, but let's see if I can get it in the camera. Yeah, it's pretty made up. Now this side ain't too bad. I mean, I could put bearing in it. I mean, it still has somewhat a bearing in it, but y'all can see down at the other end. Yeah, it's ate through some pretty gnarly stuff. So yeah, it's getting a new one. Definitely getting a new one. So I'll order that up, and I'll pick the video back up when I get the new one in. But, yeah, it's got chunks everywhere. But good news is the axle looks fine. So I mean, I'm gonna reuse the axle. I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna clean up everything in here. It don't feel too bad up in here where the carrier goes. So yeah, I'll pick it back up when I get the new one in. All right, guys, we're back to the 300EX project. Took and ordered up a new carrier for the bearings. Had the bearings already installed. Brand new. Wasn't too bad. It was about $59 on eBay. So, pretty good stuff. Cheap and good. That's what we're going for. As before, you could tell the inside of the old carrier, it was just trashed. Couldn't even put bearings in it if I wanted to. So it was way cheaper buying just a complete one versus buying the carrier itself and then buying the bearings separate and then pressing them in and all that. So anyway, I've got a little bit of caliper grease. Okay. Now a lot of people use anti-seize, this, that, a bunch of stuff. This works the same. Great stuff. Just lube it up just a little bit around the whole thing before you go to install it. That way it's easy to go in, and you've got these two rubber, I want to say grommets, but they're not grommets. They're just kind of like a rubber C shape, and the press in there helps hold that carrier in place when installing it. Then you adjust your chain and tighten it and all that. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of this grease all the way around it. That way nothing seizes up and everything. And also, that old one did not have it, but this new one that I purchased on eBay, it has the grease insert nipple. So you can take a grease gun, grease it up. Already did all that, so it's good to go. But anyway, so basically you're just going to install it just kind of like how you took the old one out. It's got a big bevel piece with holes right here for a tool. That way you can take and you can pivot it, tighten your chain up and everything. Anyways, you kind of wiggle it on in there. Should go in right like that. Alright. Now we're going to clean this axle up some because it's got old bearing material and dirt and mud and just about everything underneath the sun on it. So I want to clean this up real quick and then we'll jump back to it and I'll reinstall the axle. Alright guys, after you take and you clean up your axle just a little bit, go get some multi-duty complex grease, high temp application. You can use whatever you want as long as it's high temp. Grab you some. I'd prefer wearing gloves, that way you ain't got to deal with getting it all off after. And just slather it up real good. That way, with them new seals and everything just slips right on. You ain't got to worry about tearing the bearing seals. None of that. They also make it easier when you go to take on and put back on the coupling for the rotor. Slather it up. I'm going to leave this on until we get it in. Because my luck, I'm going to end up forgetting. You know how that goes. Start getting it on, and you're gonna be defeating the whole purpose. What I was afraid of. I'm going to have taken unbolt this chain guard and let it drop down just a little bit, slide it all the way in. We had enough slop with the old one where it's so wore out. We could just angle it and bring it out. Oh well, no biggie. I'll take the gloves off. This. I want to say it's a 13. It's either a 13 or a 12. It's 12. And they look pretty rusty. We're going to try to break them loose. This ratchet first. And then we'll take them. Use that impact. Might help if I do it the right way. Here. Now yours may or may not have this guard. This one does. So you might not even have to take this guard off. But in my case I am. So that's what we're doing. Like I said, I just need it down enough that I can get it past. Just like that. There we go. Perfect. Now we can start putting everything else back on it. Couple flathead screwdrivers. I believe the person who made snap rings named them snap rings because they snap your finger. Just be careful. Hammer. Alright. I'm just going to tap this around a little bit out of my way. Make sure that caliper, when it's on, make sure it ain't going to be tapping it. Shouldn't, but still. Alright. So now the carrier is not going anywhere. Completely fine. 14, 15 will work, but I don't want to end up rounding the nuts off. Alright. Side. This. Just slide it right in. Pretty easy, pretty simple. I could have just left this on and slid it on, but sometimes if, say, you're just replacing the bearings or whatnot instead of the whole carrier, it's easier to take this off in case you got to smack this with a rubber mallet and seat it in there. But these seals, they seem like they're pretty easy to slide in. Also helps that I greased it up pretty good. Time being, we're just going to put these on. Make sure you take your time and actually put them on. You don't want to mess around and cross thread them. I'll go back through and tighten them up when we've got everything together. Make sure to torque them down. Slide your nut on, tighten it all the way up, that way you can see the groove. And this little snap pin ring. Now this is where it's a little tricky. It's more aggravation than anything, to be honest with you. Most of the time when you go to press this on, whole axle wants to slide off. Not slide off, but slide in through the whole carrier. There you go. Now we can just start putting it all the way back out there. Now make sure when you go to tighten this back up, this ring right here stays inside the groove. Sometimes it gets stretched out where you pump it on and off, greasing it and everything else. It doesn't want to go back inside that groove the right way anyway. Everything just seats properly. Give it a smack when you start tightening it up. Make sure it's going to stay inside that groove in the axle, because this axle nut will slide right over it, and that's what hides it from when you're out riding the trail and the stick popping up, smacking it, you know, whatever. Start doing your thing. Tighten it on up. Alright. After you take and you put your axle nut on, what you do, get you a big pair of channel locks, or if you have 2 big crescent wrenches. Now I'm going to use a pair of channel locks and crescent wrenches. And just slide it on, of course. Hold it in place. Make sure you get it nice and tight. After you do that, you can put your brake caliper back on like I showed before how you take it off. You just put it right back on the same way. However, I'm not going to do that on this one just yet because I've got to do some brake work while it's apart. I'm going to go ahead and change the brake pads on it and see if I can bleed this caliper. If not, I'll have to get on eBay and order up a new brake caliper for the rear. But anyways, moving on. Then, take your hub, slide it on. Now I've already put anti-seize on this right here. This is crucial unless you want to spend hours upon hours beating on them and heating up the whole axle to get them off, if need be. So put your anti-seize on, slide it on, get your axle nut, and then a Carter pin or keyway, whatever you want to call it. People call it a lot of things, but we all know what I'm talking about. Just take it, put it on, tighten it up, put that keyway in or Carter pin, and slap the chain on, and we'll be good to go. Which I actually did while I was doing this project. Went ahead and ordered up a brand new chain, so we'll be ready to rip it here in a little bit. Appreciate it, and I'm going to do a follow-up video to this. And thank you all for watching. Please subscribe. And one thing I forgot to mention before I end the video is do take, and like I said, I'm not doing this. Same thing with the caliper. I'm not going to do this until I put that new chain on, because I'm going to take and rotate that carrier and get the right amount of tension on it. But always, do not forget, put all of your bolts back in here. That way it can squish up against that carrier and keep it in place. And then of course you've got your set pivot bolt right there. So, yeah, thanks, God bless, appreciate you watching. Please subscribe. Have an awesome day.